You guys all use hot glue to put your tile on, right? No intro for today's video because this is going to be a quick and simple herringbone tile pattern how to start video. Now maybe you can resonate with this. The reason I am doing this video is because before I actually did any of my own herringbone pattern, I did a bunch of research, watched a bunch of videos, how-tos, and most of them were basically saying, here's how the pattern works, and they draw it out on paper, and then they just go straight to the wall, mix some thinset, and slap it up on the wall and just say, this is how you do it. That was extremely stressful. That is the tactic I used on the bathroom upstairs, and like I said, it was stressful. Didn't really work. Some of my grout lines aren't perfect. It took about 3 walls before I got the hang of it, and so this technique is what I came up with to make it just way easier. I'm gonna call it the hot glue technique. First off, if you watched this video all the way through and you liked it and it helped, please hit the like button and consider subscribing. I do a ton of videos on remodeling, but definitely a lot of videos coming up about how to get into real estate investing and what that looks like financially, and a lot of other personal finance stuff. So before we start, we need to know exactly what the herringbone pattern is. So you can see behind me I have that first layer started. I know it's a little bit blurry, but so basically everything's at a 45-degree angle, and you're stacking tiles in alternating fashion. So you will have 45-degree angles everywhere, and that makes it really hard to level. So again, you still have to be level because it's a tile pattern. You're tessellating this pattern along a whole wall, so you're gonna notice if it's not level. And so how do you level something that every angle is at 45? It makes it difficult. So you can see my laser level is set up. That is my #1 go-to tool for doing herringbone. If you don't have one, I really recommend you get one. I was gonna say you don't have to, but you probably don't have to, but man, they are so extremely helpful in every scenario. Tile, sheetrock, like so many things, hanging cabinet. There's just so many things you can use it for. So anyway, I have my laser level set up, and you can see that that laser line is hitting the same point on every pattern. So let me turn you around to show you. So you see right there, the laser line is just hitting the peak of this tile. And then you go back to this side of the pattern, just hitting the peak. And then it hits the peak all over to the other end. And each one of these angles, you can see if I put a speed square up to this, it's a 45-degree angle. So those are the basics of the herringbone pattern. Everything's at a 45, perfect 45 if you can, and it still has to be level, and the way you level that is making sure you pick one point on each tile that is the same tile in the pattern, and just make sure your laser line hits that same point, and that makes sure you're level. A couple of precautions: you can be level and not have everything at a 45. So don't think that if your laser line is hitting the same point on all of your tiles around the whole room, your pattern could actually be flattened a little bit and not at a 45, which will make the pattern level, but all of your grout lines are going to be off because nothing's going to be square, because that 45-degree angle is what makes the grout lines even all the way around. Now going through tools I use for this, super simple. First, you need the hot glue gun. This is what we're actually going to stick the tiles to the wall with for our initial kind of test pattern run. Obviously you need a level. This one has a spinning part where I can set a specific angle. Come on, focus. So I can set this to a 45 and just stick it on the tile, and it should tell me if it's at a 45. This is a little bit less accurate, I found, than just using a speed square with a normal level. So that's the next tool we'll need, speed square. Plastic is better because a lot of the metal ones are aluminum, and the aluminum like leaves deposits on tiles. No bueno. Always need your trusty Sharpie. And then the last thing is not really a tool, but your spacers, whatever spacers you're using. I'm using 16th inch spacers, and you'll need those when you set up this first layer of tile. So what we're actually doing here is just setting up that first initial layer of tile So then the next layer we can actually use the thinset and mud the tile on permanently. So you can see here I got my laser level, and this is the point I chose. So that top point of the tile, of specifically the one that's facing this way. So I chose the top point of that, and you can see the laser is just grazing every single top point. Even this corner one that, you know, you cut in half to make it wrap around the corner. This one, so all of them should look exactly the same. And that's how you know your level. How you know your 45-degree angles are correctly, you take your speed square, set it in there. You shouldn't have any gaps, so it should look super good, like that. That's your double check. So, how I actually started this was, this wall you'll walk in and see when you walk into the bathroom. I marked the center point of the room, and then the tile pattern, the center of the tile pattern is halfway through this side right here. So this is halfway. This is the center of the room. So you don't want to center your tile pattern, your herringbone pattern here or here, because that's not actually the center. The center is right here. If that doesn't work for your layout, you can also center on the center of a tile, but it looks better when you do this. So basically, mark the center point in your room. Mark where that point is, the one you're gonna use with your laser level, which is down here on mine, right here. So that's how I laid out these first two tiles. So I measured my point straight down with my laser level. Made sure this is a 45. And here's where the trick comes in. You just hold this tile up against the wall, take your other hand, squeeze a little bit of hot glue right there, 2 spots, that's enough. Get the next tile, set it there, hot glue. Make sure the hot glue is cooled before you let go, so you're gonna have to hold your hand there for probably, oh, I don't know, 20 seconds, make sure it cools. And then a little bit of hot glue in between the tiles. And now come back, double check, make sure your angle's a 45 and your tiles are centered where you want. And that's gonna make sure your pattern is nearly perfect. So setting up the next pattern, or the next repeating tile pattern, all it's a matter of doing is lining up this edge perfectly, putting in your spacers, holding this tile up, maybe throwing a square in here, making sure you're still right on, but then also making sure your laser line is the same as this tile. And if your laser line for this tile is the same as this one right here, this point, and this is a 45, you're spot on with your pattern. And then you just literally do that all the way around the room and you're done. So now I'm outside of the bathtub. Yeah, so it's really that simple. I see a lot of videos making it really complicated. The corners are a little bit complicated if you want to do wraparound corners where you cut the tile cut you make to meet the corner. You use the cutoff of that in the next wall, so it looks like the tile wraps around the wall. That is a little bit complicated because you have to have a little bit of a gap so the tile matches. But if you don't do that, it's off a little bit, but honestly, not really enough to even care. I mean, maybe professional tilers give you a hard time, but I don't think professionals watch my video. So anyway, so this hot glue technique worked super good for me. This bathroom, I have it laid out and it's nearly perfect. The lasers are right on all the points. Everything's a 45, so now I have a really good start for when I actually mud the next layer. So I'll leave this layer on, and it's plenty sturdy. That hot glue is not going anywhere. And then I'll use my thinset, put the next couple rows on, and then once that dries, and I need to mix another batch or come back the next day, then I'll very carefully pull off these tiles with the hot glue. And be really, really careful because some of the membranes out there for the waterproofing, like RedGuard I'm using, it sticks to the hot glue like no joke. So maybe take a razor blade, just cut the hot glue a little bit, tear it apart, and just leave the hot glue on there because it's gonna get all covered up with thinset anyway. Moral of the story is don't use a whole lot of hot glue. You will see that it sticks the tile up there like no joke with just a couple pea-size things of hot glue. So yeah, I hope that made sense and maybe helped you start the herringbone pattern. Maybe decide to do it, because a lot of the videos I watch, you know, they kind of start with, here's the layout, and then they just start going mixing thinset and slapping it on the wall and making sure it's right. That is extremely stressful. I did that upstairs. I did that tactic there, and man, was that first batch of thinset pretty much wasted, because the pattern took like an hour to get right, perfectly right, before I could start actually laying a bunch of tile. And you know, the pot life of thinset is like an hour or two, so that didn't work. But this hot glue, you can sit here for 3 hours, get it absolutely perfect. You could take a tile off if you made a mistake, clean up the glue, put it right back on exactly how you need it to, and nothing's going to waste. Maybe spend a little bit extra time, but it ensures your pattern is a whole lot better.